कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमती राधा समुद्रांगे नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव साधि गौरभक्त हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण 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 कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्ण
हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण हरे
हरे कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम हरे कृष्ण हरे राम हरे
कृष्ण
प्रधानमंत्री Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare. Did you read Sanam mantra? Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare आगे कमेंट कीजिए हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे राम राम हरे Hare Krishna while chanting you should do like that. Finish after finishing quickly. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपस्ताय भूतले श्रीमती राधा स्वामी नामिने नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपस्ताय भूतले श्रीमती भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवाद पाश्चात्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीधारिका रसवृंद हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम राम हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Rama Rama Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Rama
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा विश्वम्बर शरण प्रभु राज प्रभु लावण्य गौरव प्रभु राधिका माता जी संयुक्ता माता जी वाणी माता जी संध्या माता जी धन्यवाद प्रणाम साल glory Shri Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much for joining today. We'll start with Mangalacharana, quick Mangalacharana prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavranda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Makam karoti vachalam pangam langayate ginamit prapatamaham vande Shri Gurum Diyatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Om Apavitra Pavitro Va Sarvavastangato Piva Yasmaret Pundari Paksham Sabhyabhyantaram Suchi. Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu Sri Vishnu. రాజు ప్రభు నిన్న ఏం చేశారు ప్రభుజీ అయిపోయింది అది 2 గైడ్స్.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. 112 అయిపోయింది Prabhuji. Last section అనుకుంటా. 112 verses అయిపోయింది Prabhuji. 112 అయిపోయింది. 87 to 112 section అయిపోయింది Prabhuji.
Acha,
130
CC
130 నుంచి
మధ్యనా?
చేయాలి పూజ.
CC మధ్యనా?
సిసి మధ్య పూజ.
ఓకే, డౌన్లోడ్ చేయలేదు ఫైల్. ఫైల్ జస్ట్ చెకింగ్. CC మధ్య. ఓకే. జయ జయ శ్రీ చైతన్య జయ నిత్యానంద. ప్లీజ్ డాక్టర్ మీ. జయ జయ శ్రీ చైతన్య జయ నిత్యానంద.
జయ జయ శ్రీ చైతన్య జయ నిత్యానంద.
జయ ద్వైత చంద్ర జయ గౌర భక్త వృంద.
జయ ద్వైత చంద్ర జయ గౌర బృంద.
ఒక ప్రభు ఒక మాత చేయండి, ఒక ప్రభుజీ ఒక మాత చేయండి.
జయ జయ శ్రీ చైతన్య జయ నిత్యానంద శ్రీ అద్వైత చంద్ర జయ గౌర భక్త బృంద.
వెరీ గుడ్. ప్రభు
జయ జయ శ్రీ చైతన్య జయ నిత్యానంద జయ అద్వైత గౌరవ జయ అద్వైత చంద్ర గౌర భక్త బృంద.
వెరీ గుడ్. So now, yeah, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Do it, Lavanya. That tune. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Do it.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram.
Your internet feeble undi, Lavanya. Okay, your internet is feeble. Sorry, switch off చేయడము, switch on చేయడం, మళ్ళీ రీచ్ చేయడం కూడా అట్లాగే. ఓకే. సో ప్రభు ఇదేనా, ఈ సెక్షన్ ఏనా? 1132 to 1113 ఇదేనా? ఇక్కడ నుంచి స్టార్ట్ చేసేది రాజు ప్రభు, ఇదేనా? until 112 done na yesterday?
Yes Prabhuji, yeah, from 113 now. Yeah, this section.
Very good, sure, thank you. So Deepa Mataji, please start.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. 113 to 133, Sakshi Gopal stay at Vidyanagara and later at Kataka. 113 to 114, after the marriage, Lord Gopal informed both Brahmanas, "You both are my eternal servants, birth after birth. I am pleased by your truthfulness. Now you can ask for benediction." Noting point, Nitya Siddhas, although appearing in the material world and seemingly common members of the world, never forget the Supreme Lord in any condition and are beyond mundane qualifications as they are engaged in Lord's service. These are the 5 qualities of Nitya Siddhas. 115 to 116a, the Brahmanas requested Gopal, "Please remain here so that people all over the world will know how merciful you are to your servants." Gopal stayed and the 2 Brahmanas engaged in his service. 116b to 119, Gopal stays in Vidyanagara. Hearing this incident, many people from different countries began to come. Eventually, the king also came to see Gopal. He made a nice temple and regular service was done. Gopal became famous as Sakshi Gopal, the witness Gopal. Thus, he stayed in Vidyanagara for a long time. 120 to 121, 124a, King Purushottama Deva of Orissa, later in a fight, conquered over the king of Vidyanagara and took possession of his throne, the Manikya Simhasana, which was bedecked with many jewels, and presented it to Lord Jagannath at Puri. Prabhuji, continue cheyamantara?
Yeah, అంటే ఉంది, పెద్దదే ఉంది. It's okay, Amma. Thank you very much, Mataji. Let us give it
Thank
to.
you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, Samyukta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Please read. 122 to 123.
122 to 123, 124b, Gopala at Kataka. Purushottama Deva was a great devotee and an Aryan. He begged Gopala to come to his kingdom, and the Lord, who was already obliged by the king's bhakti, accepted his prayers. Thus, he took the Gopala deity to Kataka and established regular worship for him there. 125 to 127. The queen's devotion to Gopala. His queen presented various ornaments to Gopala and wished to give a valuable pearl that she wore on her nose to him, but wondered if there was a hole in the deity's nose. 128 to 133. Pearl on Gopala's nose. That night, in a dream, Gopala spoke to the queen that his mother had made a hole in his nose in his childhood and set a pearl there, and that the queen could use it to set the pearl she desired to offer. The queen explained this to the king, and both of them went to the temple and set the pearl in the deity's nose. Being very pleased, they held a great festival. Since then, Gopala has been situated in Kataka, and he has been known ever since as Sakshi Gopala. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. In our deities, anybody observed? No? Meditation, when we go to temple, you have to observe, how these jewelry, dresses, garlands, various jewelry. Radharani's nose having wonderful, beautiful jewels. Every morning, pujaris, the Alankaran antaru kada, such that this is what here it's saying. Some first time.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yesterday I listened one lecture with Prananda Das Prabhuji. That Sampurna Bhagavatam. He is telling that we need to observe what dress he has wear, what kind of dress, what is the color, how is the turban, what is the paint, and how it is the paint. So everything we need to completely we should meditate on the deities, he's telling.
Standing in front of the deities and observe and meditate on observation, meditation, remembrance, beauty. That's the thing. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Sandhya Mata, please read. 134 to 140, some context.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. హైదరాబాద్ లో అందరికి తెచ్చారా మత తిరుపతి లడ్డులు?
తీసుకొచ్చాను ప్రభుజీ. అందరికి సరిపోతే తెలీదు, తీసుకొచ్చాను.
సత్సంగ్ లో కలిస్తే మా వాళ్ళకి ఇవ్వండి, సో దట్ దే విల్ షో మీ, సో దట్ ఐ విల్.
Sure, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, continue.
134 to 140, pleasure of seeing Lord Chaitanya and Sakshi Gopala. 134, pleasure of hearing. Thus, Lord Chaitanya heard the narration of Gopala's activities. Both he and his personal devotees became very pleased. 135 to 140, Lord Chaitanya and Gopala are the same. When Lord Chaitanya was sitting before the Gopala deity, all the devotees saw him, and the deity similar in form, complexion, gingatic body, saffron cloth, gravity, effulgence, lotus eyes, ecstasy, and moon-like faces. Nityananda Prabhu then exchanged remarks with the devotees, all of whom were smiling. Thus, with great pleasure, Lord Chaitanya passed the night, and in the morning, after Mangalarati, he departed. In his Chaitanya Bhagavata, Vrindavana Dasa vividly described the places visited by Lord Chaitanya on the way to Bhuvaneshwara.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. 134 to 140, pleasure of seeing Lord Chaitanya and Sakshi Gopala. Very good. So let us continue with this section. Where is there? Sirisha Mata, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Danda, Bangalila. 141 to 143. Nityananda breaks the sannyasa dana. Danda. When Lord Chaitanya arrived at Kamalapura, he took bath in the Bargi Nadi river, leaving his sannyasa danda. With Lord Nityananda, when Lord Chaitanya went to Shiva temple known as Kapoteshwara, Nityananda broke his danda in 3 parts.
and threw it into the river, Bargi Nadi. Later, this river became known as the Danda Banga Nadi. Why did Lord Nityananda break the Danda? In the Sannyasa order, these are 4 divisions: Kutichaka, Bahudaka, Hamsa, and Paramahamsa. Only sannyasis on the Kutichaka and Bahudaka platforms can carry a staff. Lord Nityananda reasoned that Lord Chaitanya is automatically on the Paramahamsa platform and need not carry the sannyasa danda. He also wanted to declare that the Lord was above all regulations. Can I continue, Prabhuji?
Let me see. The big section on the. And this is the last, I think. Sorry.
Yes, Prabhuji.
We'll give it to
144.
other. Yeah. We'll give it to other. 144.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank
you.
you. Radhika Mata, are you able to read?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Yes, Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam.
144 to 146. Seeing the Jagannath temple. From a distant place, Lord Chaitanya became ecstatic. Offering obeisances, he began to dance in prema. And all the devotees became ecstatic, dancing and singing along the road. Although the temple was only 6 miles away to him, the distance seemed thousands of miles. 147 to 151. The Lord asked for his danda. After coming to external consciousness at Athar Nala, Nityananda replied, "It was broken into 3 parts. When you fell down in ecstasy, I caught you, but both of us together fell upon the danda, and it broke under our weight. Where the pieces went, I cannot say. It was broken certainly due to my offense. Now you can punish me as you think proper."
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where is there? Vani Mata, are you able to read? Hare Krishna, Vani Mata.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhuji.
Are you able to read?
Yes, Prabhuji, I can read.
Yeah, 152.
Okay, 152 to 154. Lord Chaitanya's anger. Hearing this, Lord Chaitanya was a little sad and angry and spoke, "You have all benefited me by bringing me to Nilachala. However, you couldn't keep that one staff, my only possession. So all of you should go before or behind me. I shall not go with you." Lord Chaitanya expressed anger because he wanted to teach all other sannyasis that they should not give up the danda before attaining the platform of Paramahamsa. 155 to 156a. Mukunda Datta said, "My lord, you should go ahead and allow all the others to follow." Then the Lord walked very swiftly. 156b to 158. Danda Bhanga Leela is deep. No one could understand the real purpose of the 2 lords, why Nityananda Prabhu broke the staff, why Lord Chaitanya permitted him to do so, or why after permitting him the Lord became angry. Only one whose devotion is fixed upon the lotus feet of the Lord, of the 2 lords, can understand it. 159 to 161. Falashruti of the Sakshi Gopala story. The glories of Lord Gopala, which is merciful to Brahmanas, are very great. The narration of Sakshi Gopala was spoken by Nityananda Prabhu and heard by Lord Chaitanya. One who hears this narration with faith and love very soon attains the lotus feet of Lord Gopala. Should I continue, Prabhuji?
Yeah, this is the last thing.
Okay, instructions from the story of Sakshi Gopala. The deity of the Sakshi Gopala is eternally Satchitananda Vigraha, surpassing material regulative principles and extending the reality of transcendental principles. As a Brahmana, one has to follow the principles strictly, and a devotee who is under Krishna's protection is automatically situated as a Brahmana.
Come here to read.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. So this is the beauty of the activities of Sakshi Gopala. Who is describing this? In this page only answer there. Who is describing this? To whom?
Nityananda Prabhu is telling the Sakshi Gopala story to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Haribo. So what happens when we read, when we hear about this pastime?
Prabhuji, I have a question. Here it
Mhm.
says that, only who's, no one could understand the real purpose of the two lords. Why Nityananda Prabhu broke the staff and why Chaitanya Prabhu, permitted him to do. But after permitting again, he became angry. So, what is the reason, Prabhuji?
Leela, pastimes, Mataji. Only one whose devotion is fixed upon the lotus feet. We are sorry, I mean, only
So we are
one
not at that level.
whose devotion is fixed upon the lotus feet of the two
Yeah,
lords.
yeah.
They understand it. And see, Bhagavan కావాలనుకున్నప్పుడు it's a past time అవుతుంది. ఎందుకు ఇట్లనే ఎందుకు చేయాలి? మన మెటీరియలిస్టిక్ బ్రెయిన్ ఆలోచిస్తుంది అట్లా. ఇట్లా కాదు కదా, దేవుడు కదా. These are very intimate, very personal and very deep, Danda Bhanga Leela is very deep. No one could understand the real purpose of the two lords. Why Nityananda Prabhu broke the staff? Why Lord Chaitanya Prabhu? The Leela, will of the Lord. Krishna wanted to do that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to do that way. After permitting, Atlanta Manam, we are reading now, we are doing this Bhagavatam, right? Bhakti Vaibhava. We are doing that course, and there is one question. Why Parikshit Maharaj is a great devotee of Supreme Lord? Krishna's personal protection is there during his in his mother's womb, Uttara. How he acted, Shringi, Samika Rishi, why? He didn't honor properly that Samika Rishi because of his thirst and hunger. Why? He's a great devotee, he will tolerate, right? He can be able to tolerate, right? It has to happen like that, Mataji. So it's a Krishna's will, Supreme Lord's will. It's a pastime. You can understand it that way.
సో ప్రభుజీ లీలలు మనకు అర్థం కాకపోయినా పర్వాలేదు, భగవంతుని లీలలు మనకు అర్థం కాకపోయినా పర్వాలేదు.
ప్రభు అన్ని అర్థం కావు ప్రభుజీ. మెటీరియలిస్టిక్ బ్రెయిన్ తో అర్థం చేసుకోలేము అవన్నీ.
మాతాజీ, లైక్ చైతన్య మహాప్రభు ఏదైనా చేయాలంటే త్రూ హీజ్ ఇంటిమేట్ డివోటీస్ తోనే చేపిస్తాడు, రైట్? సో నిత్యానంద ప్రభు ఇస్ ద ఇంటిమేట్ డివోటీ అండ్ ఇంటిమేట్ అసోసియేట్. సో అందుకే ఆయనకు దండ ఇచ్చి ఆయనకు అలా బ్రోక్ చేసేలాగా చేసి మళ్ళీ తర్వాత యాంగ్రీ ఎందుకంటే ఇట్స్ లైక్ ఎందుకు అంటే నేను పరమహంస స్టేట్ లో లేను కదా, నువ్వు ఎందుకు అట్లా చేసినావని అంటే మిగతా వాళ్ళకి తెలుస్తుంది కదా, ఓహో చైతన్య మహాప్రభు లాంటి వాళ్ళే పట్టుకున్నారంటే మనం వీఆర్ నాట్ ఇన్ దట్ స్టేట్ అని వాళ్ళు స్ట్రిక్ట్ గా ఫాలో అవుతారు అన్నట్టుగా చూపించడానికి అట్లా చేసిండ్రు అన్నట్టు.
God Prabhu, you got it? Chandraval Prabhu, Vani Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhu.
One who hears this narration with faith and love very soon attains the lotus feet of the Lord Gopala. Instructions from the story of Sakshi Gopala, the deity of Sri Gopala is eternally Sachidananda Vigraha, surpassing material regulative principles and extending the reality of transcendental principles. As a Brahmana, one has to follow the principles strictly, and a devotee who is under Krishna's protection is automatically situated as a Brahmana. So, Puri Jagannath, in this Kartik Mass, Guru Maharaj is taking all of us to Puri Dham. I think we are supposed to go there, this place also. Sakshi Gopal. Exciting. So let us see. The deity can be able to walk, can be able to speak. It looks like just a statue or just like, Vigraha. But through Vigraha only everything happens. Why in our temple 6 times bhoga offerings, 6 times prayers, aratis? Why? The person actually, our blunt, and it's spiritual, completely spiritual. If it is looking like statue, it is looking like a stone, but it's not a stone, it's not a statue. It is a person. He is a person. We can exchange love between Krishna through the deity form. See, in our movement, Prabhupada established what is that? Opulent deity worship. Prabhupada instruction, deity worship should go so nicely, even though most of the funds, that is where You would utilize nice ornaments, nice jewelry, nice clothes, cleanliness, proper aratis, proper bhoga preparations. He has given instructions, opulent worship, which is the thing. So this is done, I think 161 only, na? The verses there. I'm just little wonder. Let me check once. 161 verses in the Mother is probably in this. In the Madhya 20. Madhya Lila, chapter 5.
161 only, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji?
161 only.
161. Yeah, 161 yes. 161. 161 ఏముంది అని మన కృష్ణదాస్ కర్య గోస్వామి glorifying spiritual master Rupa and Raghunath Goswami. Anyway, okay, we'll start mana Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita chapter 5. Anybody likes to share anything in this CC Madhya chapter 5? So activities of Sakshi Gopala, anybody likes to share?
And like Lord is like Sakshi Gopala deity is very big in the pic. I didn't see, but in the pic it's very big. Like complete. It's very nice.
Yeah, we didn't go now. We will go anyway. This time. Yes, this is Srila Prabhupada Lilamritam ki jai. Jaya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Srila Guru Deva. We are reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, the volume 1. We are at chapter 5. Until now, we completed 4 chapters. Childhood, first chapter, second chapter, college, marriage, and the Gandhi's movement. Chapter 3, a very nice saintly person. Chapter 4, how shall I serve you? Chapter 5, the war. We are gonna read. Okay? Yes. So I think our mother is done. Lavanya. Yeah, Lavanya, you can start with this chapter.
Yeah. Chapter 5, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, Chapter 5, the war. Under the circumstances since 1936 up to now, I was simply speculating whether I shall venture this difficult task and what without any means and capacity. But as none have discouraged me, I have now taken courage to take up the work. Srila Prabhupada, back to Corded Magazine. The fire in the Mata broke out almost immediately. A senior disciple said that there should be one Acharya who would be the spiritual successor to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and who would perform all initiation and settle at controversies. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had never said that. He had never called for one Acharya. Rather, he had instructed the members of the Gaudiya Mutt to form a governing body of 12 men and carry on a concerted effort. But that instructions was abandoned, and the suggestion that there be one leader to hold. A single person instead of 12 should take charge, and now it became a rush for who. 2 parties contested. Ananta Vasudeva, one of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's leading preachers, was ambitious and he pressed his claim with a group of influential sannyasi supporters. Another man, Kunjavihari, shrewdly went after the properties. He had been a leading administrator under Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and now he claimed ownership of Palatial Temple in Calcutta, as well as the other properties and assets of the India-wide Gaudiya Mutt. Although in his will, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had expressed his desire that his disciples select a governing body to manage all properties and funds of the Gaudiya Mutt. Kunjavihari contested the wills legitimacy. He and his supporters argued that since Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had received the properties on behalf of God, he was not their rightful owner and therefore could not determine their future ownership. Thus, he and others disputed over the legal and theological aspects of the former Acharya's position. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Lavanya. We continue. Yes. Gaurav Prabhu. Now Prabhu is done.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Shortly after Srila Bhaktivedanta's passing away, Recitations had begun. Ananta Vasudeva, supported by the majority of the members of the Gaudiya Math, had claimed that he, as the next Acharya, was the owner and the director of the properties. But although Kunja Vihari had only a few supporters, he defied the majority by pressing his claim through lawyers in court. Kunja Vihari and his men had possession of the Chaitanya Math and the temples in Mayapur. Vasudeva's party captured other buildings, quarreling and fist fighting broke out. The preaching of the Gaudiya Math stopped. Abhay's inability to take part in the activities of the Gaudiya Math was suddenly in his favor. He had always been more a visitor than a member at the Math, and at least externally more than Grihast businessman than a missionary worker. This automatically put him a distance from the fray. Of course, he was associated with the Maths in Bombay and Allahabad, but he had no managerial positions, no claims to the ownership, and no role in the litigation. Nor did he desire to take sides in the struggle of power. Like many of the other disciplines, he was mortified to see that his spiritual master's instructions for corporations had been disregarded and his mission thrown into a legal dispute. Abhay knew that Srila Bhaktivedanta had wanted the leaders to work cooperatively, and so he could not sympathize with the varying factions. Both parties were an insult to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Raja Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Actually, he went to drop kids to school.
Acha, okay, no problem. Yes.
I can read. Prabhu.
Yeah. Prabhu?
I can read. I can. Outside, I can read.
You want to read?
So my voice is audible, Prabhu?
Our voice is a little bit.
Hare Krishna. Otherwise, I can read after like someone, Prabhu. 2 minutes. I can.
Voice is audible, Prabhu.
Audible, Matadi? Okay, Matadi. I can read. Yeah, but he wanted to preach, although becoming a very good English preacher was something he was meditating on more than actively doing. The Gaudiya Math would logically have been the vehicle for his preaching. He had already contributed articles to the Gaudiya Math's publications and had been working with these God brothers at the Allahabad and Bombay centers. Naturally, he thought of serving his spiritual master in terms of serving within his spiritual master's mission. But the Gaudiya Math, which had always been known for pure, bold preaching of the message of the Lord Chaitanya, was now becoming known for embroiled fractions. As the Gaudiya Math broke down, he was also affected. Under the present circumstances, how could he carry out his spiritual master's orders to preach? Previously, the main obstacle to his preaching had been family commitments, but now the obstacles were compounded. Now he had to wait helplessly for the outcome of the struggle. What would Krishna bring about? Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Vishwambar Sharan.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam. 1938. His Bombay business diminished. Abhay, now 42, moved back to Kolkata with his wife and family and rented a house at 6 Sita Kanta Banerjee Lane. The street was but a narrow lane lined on either side with 3-story houses. His office was on the first floor facing the street. The family lived upstairs. He rented the adjoining building, number 7, and on the first floor operated a small chemical laboratory manufacturing distilled water, D-Spain's liniment, emul tonic, alpha, an injection for boils, and various other medicines. He also utilized a small outbuilding in the rear as a part of his lab. Out front, he hung a large signboard, Abhay Charnadi and Sons, displaying a picture of mustached Abhay Charan. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Continue one more.
Sometimes he would employ 2 or 3 servants to assist him, but mostly he worked alone. And he would deliver his glass jugs of distilled water to agents such as Bengal Company and Gluconet. He printed a brochure advertising D-Spain liniment, good for relieving gout, rheumatism, and all pains. And if one wanted to be free from recurring disease like rheumatism and gout, Abhay's brochure directed that in addition to using D-Spain liniment, one refrain from alcohol and all sorts of drinking or intoxication habits, and foods and drink should be very simple and innocent, such as vegetables and milk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Chandra Prabhu is talking. Chandra Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Anybody? Chandra Prabhu, yourself.
Okay, I'll bring it.
Read.
Sometimes he would employ 2 or 3 servants to assist him, but mostly he worked alone, and he would deliver his glass jugs of distilled water to agents such as Bengal Company and Gluconet. He printed a brochure advertising D-Pain's liniment, good for relieving gout, rheumatism, and all the pains. And if one wanted to free of recurring diseases like rheumatism and gout, Abbay's brochure directed that in addition to the using day's pain liniment, one refrain from alcohol and all sorts of drinking or intoxicating habits, and food and drink should be very simple and innocent, such as vegetables and milk.
He has read already. Anyway, it's okay, probably.
Okay, sorry, bro. The New Calcutta business enjoyed an early success, but Abbey didn't have his heart in it. It was a duty he had to do to maintain his family. His new acquaintances in Calcutta found him to be a devotee of the god at heart, a businessman, a family man, but more concerned with writing and preaching than with business and family. Chandi Mukherjee, a neighbor from the nearby Bihari state, he was interested only in devotional activities, and he did not business only to maintain the family. He didn't seem interested in profit motive, in accumulating money or becoming a rich man. Yeah, can I go ahead now? Charan Mukherjee, Abbay's next door neighbor, Abbay's Charan was always a very patient listener to every illogical arguments that anybody, including myself, would bring to him. Not knowing philosophy, I would illogically present so many arguments, and and Mr. Day would always very patiently listen. Nothing agitated him. He was always very calm, and he taught me about God. He would speak only of Krishna. He was translating the Gita and was maintaining his business. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Chandra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. The neighbors would often see him sitting on his cot in the front room. He would read his spiritual master's books and sometimes recite the Sanskrit slokas out loud. He liked to discuss philosophy with anyone who came by. His family keeping mostly upstairs, Abhay would sit alone in the downstairs front room, dressed in dhoti and kurta, or sometimes a dhoti and only a vest. Often he would be at his writing while outside the door. While outside the door, his children played with the children of the Ganguly family who lived in the rare apartment of the same building. The neighbors lived openly in a kind of joint neighborhood family, and Abhay talked freely with the other neighbors, but of Vaishnav philosophy and only rarely of business. Mr. Ganguly found Abhay's speech scholastic and always very philosophical. Abhay was observed in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, and even in brief conversations, he would refer to Lord Krishna and to Bhagavad Gita's description of Lord Krishna as the basis of the material and spiritual worlds. While working in his laboratory or receiving a delivery of empty bottles from the Muslim bottle merchant, or going out to sell his medicine, he would be talking or thinking about God. In those days, for a person in Calcutta, to be interested in God consciousness was not so unusual. Abhay found even a man like Abdullah, the Muslim bottle merchant, to be very religious. One day, Abhay asked Abdullah, who had once been very poor, but he had become rich by his business. And now you have got money. So how are you going to use your money? The bottle merchant replied, "My dear sir, I have an intention to construct a mosque." Shall I continue, Prabhu?
Thank you, Raji. Thank you.
Okay.
Here, Amit is there, so he is gonna read. So, which chapter we are in? You tell me. So let me see your focus.
The war, Prabhuji?
Yeah, chapter 5, the war. Yes, correct, Mother. Volume 1. Very nice. Read it. First two, please, 2 paragraphs.
Meanwhile, the war of the Gaudiya Math raged on. Both factions were ill-motivated and both deviated from the instructions of the spiritual master. The very act of trying to determine ownership of the properties through legal action meant that the God brothers were disobeying the express desire of their spiritual master, as stated in his will. The litigation continued year after year, but the legal wrangling could not bring them together or purify them. One court ruled in favor of Ananta Vasudeva, and then a higher court awarded 2/3 of the Mata's properties to Kunjavihari and 1/3 to Vasudeva. Still, although Vasudeva had pure properties, he inspired more followers. He seemed to them more intent on reviving the preaching of the Gaudiya monk. But when Vasudeva subsequently fell down from the principles of sannyasa by going off with a woman, the groups broke further to pieces. Most of the sannyasis continued to maintain their principles, but many now left the jurisdiction of the two contending factions in disgust. Individuals formed their own ashramas, Gaudiya Mission, Chaitanya Gaudiya Math, and others. The unified entity of Gaudiya Math as an all-India mission consisting of many temples, several presses, and hundreds of devotees working cooperatively under one leadership ceased to exist. God brothers continued to uphold the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as they had received them from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. But because they were meant to work together, they lacked their former united potency. Illusions of proprietorship and prestige had superseded the spiritual master's order, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's cause, a worldwide movement for propagating Lord Chaitanya's teaching, collapsed.
One more, I can read. Battery.
Wherever Abhay went, he seemed to attract the company of his god brothers, some followers of Sridhara Maharaja, the same Sridhara with whom he had worked in Bombay and whom he had always regarded as a good devotee and scholar, met Abhay at his place on Banerjee Lane and told his news to Sridhara Maharaja, who was then living at his own ashram in Mayapur. Sridhara Maharaj had disaffiliated himself from the factions of the Gaudiya Math, but as a sannyasi, he was still preaching and was interested in publishing Vaishnava literature. He had wanted to maintain an ashram in Kolkata, so for 20 rupees a month, he rented from Abhay the 4 rooms on the second floor of number 7 above Abhay's chemical laboratory.
Thank you, Amit. I appreciate it. Let me read 1 or 2 paragraphs and then we can conclude and go to Sloka recitation. We'll be there. Sloka recitation, very nice. Now, whenever they came to Kolkata, Sridhara Maharaja, Puri Maharaja, and the Bhakti Saranga Maharaja, based on themselves there, staying in small separate rooms. It became a regular ashrama for sannyasis and brahmacharis. And Sridhar Maharaja put a sign out front, Devananda Saraswati Mat. So the war, this chapter talks about war between Gaudiya Mats, conflicts, separation. These are the things. Sridhar Maharaja's establishment of a Mata in Mayapur with a branch in Kolkata was his response to the Gaudiya Mats split. War between Gaudiya Mats, fights. Even the devotees amongst themselves. So materialistic motive. They're also in materialistic some motive. My Mata is going to be need to flourish. I wanted to maintain. I wanted to be controller. I am the president of the Mata. These are the things. Like other sannyasis, he had been initiating disciples and preaching, not waiting for the outcome of the litigation. Its continued appeals and counterclaims. Abhay was glad to encourage Sridhar Maharaja and others who joined him at his little ashrama. Here Abhay and Sridhar Maharaja and his followers could remain aloof from the varying factions and together pursue their plans for spreading Krishna consciousness. With this, we can start. The sannyasis cooked in their separate kitchen, performed their puja, and held morning and evening kirtanas and lectures. Abhay remained with his family, taking his own meals and performing his own puja. But he often went to discuss Srimad Bhagavatam with Sridhar Maharaja. From his roof, Abhay could see the towering steeple of his spiritual master's building, the Gaudiya Mat of Bhag Bazaar. Its ownership now contested by bitter factions. We'll stop here. Thank you so much for joining today, devotees. So we'll continue with the Bhagavatam prayers. So yesterday, the Nigama Kalpataror Garitam done, na? I think. Deepa Mataji. Anybody? Raju Prabhu or any other Mataji?
Recitation appudu nenu lenu.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yesterday we finished that.
Savaypumsam parodharmo చేశారు. నిగమ కల్పతరు మొన్న అయిపోయిందంట. నిన్న savaypumsam చేస్తుంది.
Savaypumsa parodharma 1 to 6.
Yeah, is that practiced or we need to practice again?
We need to practice today.
Okay.
Individual.
So, okay, I will recite 3 times and no need to repeat. You just hear and you all repeat like that, okay? The easy one. Savaipumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Savaipumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Savaipumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Amit, you read, then later I will read.
Savai pumsham parodharmo yato bhaktir adoksaje aituki apratihata yayatma suprashidati.
2 more times.
Savai pumsham parodharmo yato bhaktir adoksaje aituki apratihata yayatma suprashidati. Savai pumsham parodharmo yato bhaktir adoksaje aituki apratihata yayatma suprashidati.
Meaning of this verse.
Translation. The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to a loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self.
So devotional service needs to be done through without any motivation, no interruption, no interruptions or no stopping. Always you have to perform. That is what the dharma, supreme dharma of humanity. That's what it was. Okay, thank you. So now Prabhuji's and Mataji's. Mataji's you all do. Okay, one time. Done. You're done.
Prabhuji nenu chesi log off అయిపోతాను.
Yes, Mata. Read.
Savaypumsam parodharmo yato bhaktirathokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Translation. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Samyukta Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti adokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Better, everybody. Translation also let us do. Very, very important verse. And it's a personal motivation for every day, for everyone. How pure devotional service needs to be performed. Let us read translation also, everyone. Yeah, with recitation. Read Mataji, translation.
Okay, Prabhuji. Translation. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji. Quickly, Mataji and Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I recite?
Yeah, Radhika, you go ahead.
Savai pumsham paro dharmo yato bhakti ratokshje ahituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Translation: the supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self.
Thank you, Mataji. Sirisha Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Translation: the supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Sandhya Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshate ahaitukiya pratihata yayatma suprasidati. Translation: the supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self.
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Yes. Vani Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Translation: the supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self.
Thank you, Mataji. Actually, Lalit Mohan Prabhu one-to-one messaged me. He has some other services, so that's why he couldn't join today. Anyway, that's the message. He has some other services. We're busy with that. Lavanya, do it.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktiradokshje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Translation: the supreme occupation means dharma for all humanities is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. From Gauranga Darshan Prabhu's tune. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaityuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Very nice, very good. Now, how many of them? 3 devotees there. Raju Prabhu, Akinchan Prabhu, Chadal Prabhu. Please do it quickly. With the translation.
Okay, Savai pumsam paro dharma yato bhaktir adokshje अहेतुकी अपरकीहता yayatma suprasidati. Translation: The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Do it, Raju Prabhu, do it.
Do it, Prabhuji. Do it, Prabhuji.
Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshage ahetuki aprahatha yahatma suprasidhati. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanities is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Savai pumsan paroduram dharmo. Sorry, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Savai
Yes, Prabhu.
pumsan paro dharmo heto bhaktir adokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Translation: The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted by completely satisfy the self. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Prabhupada, one of the frequent verses, he quotes this. Very frequent verse. Very, very frequent, actually. So next Monday onwards, we'll learn this one, okay? This is also
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, hello, Hare Krishna, Ram Reddy Prabhu, please do it.
Yeah.
Chudakurayantu.
Ram Prabhu. Sorry, Prabhu. Yeah. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Translation: The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Everybody done? So Monday we'll start with this. 1 to 11. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate. This also beautiful verse. Learns transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call is this non-dual substance, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Three kinds of relations. Bhagavan relation is topmost, Paramatma and Bhagavan is a partial relation. Okay. So we'll stop here. Thank you so much for joining today, devotees. So we'll continue on Monday. You all have a wonderful Krishna conscious weekend. None of pronouns. Panchakrutascha kripa sindhu vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantagoti Vaishnavanda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Transcendental Book Reading ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita ki jai. Nitai Gaur Hari Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. So we'll connect on Monday. So happy KC weekend. Hari Bol. I'm ending.